Today, we're going to talk about something I hear from business owners all the time. That feeling that your website isn't quite working for you anymore, but the thought of overhauling it feels totally overwhelming. I was talking to my client, Jen, and she had put off her website design project for I don't know how many years because she was busy with her business and she didn't know where to start. She said to me during our consultation call, I know that my website is hurting my business, but truthfully, the thought of tackling this project is just too overwhelming for me. And I totally get it. I hear you. Redesigning your website can sometimes feel like you're renovating your house while you're still living in it. Because where do you even begin? But here's the thing, with the right framework, some strategic planning, and the right partner, it doesn't have to be so stressful. And that's what I'm talking about today, a step-by-step approach to planning your website overhaul that will make the process so much more manageable. So let's get into it. Welcome to Website Design Made Simple, the podcast for busy small business owners who want a high-performing website that converts and sells their offers, even while they're sleeping. Because you deserve to have a strategic and beautiful website that truly represents your brand and positions you as the expert that you are. I'm your host, Jenny B., web designer and creative director at Jenny B Designs, where we believe that your website is the one thing that makes you sales and builds your brand at the same time. Ready to say goodbye to a website that you're embarrassed to share? And hello to a money-making, personality-packed powerhouse? Let's head into today's episode. Welcome back to the pod. I'm so happy to have you here. Let me do a quick introduction if we haven't already met. I'm Jenny B, and I own Jenny B Designs. We are a brand and web design studio, and my passion is for helping small business owners just like you design a beautiful, but more importantly, strategic website that is designed to attract your ideal clients and make you money. And I do this through full website redesign projects, what I'm going to be talking about today, as well as website audits, where I look at your website and tell you how you can yourself implement some updates so that you can make it appear a little bit more strategic and attract more of those ideal clients. This episode is about the people who know that they need a website overhaul, but are unsure of what that's going to involve. I'm going to share with you a step-by-step action plan on when you might need a website overhaul and what the process will look like and how to be a little bit more prepared so that you can have a better idea on what you're going into. Let's talk about the signs that your website needs an overhaul. The first one is an outdated design. Your website was built more than 3 years ago. It really truly depends on how your website was built. However, that said, if it was built more than 3 years ago, likely the design is out of date. That's sign number one. Sign number two is that you're using outdated fonts, colors, images that don't match your current brand. And this happens when you start out with a logo and some colors, and then it kind of morphs over time. Or maybe you even redesigned the logo and picked out new colors, but you didn't quite update the website to match that. Sign number two. Number three is about your layout. I talk about this a lot. When your layout, your navigation, it feels cluttered and confusing. You would see this and in an older website. In modern websites, you want to have the clean, clear, crisp, easy to use client journey. That's sign number three. And then four is that you have technology in your website that doesn't work anymore. And I'm actually going to reference two clients that I've had recently that had their websites built over 10 years ago. And they had elements on their websites that just didn't work anymore. There was deprecated technology on the back end. Make sure that your website has current up-to-date technology so that you aren't there and vulnerable to any kind of technology hacks and things are working properly. Another thing to look out for is mobile experience. That your website doesn't work on your cell phone or an iPad the same way or as well as it does on a desktop. Most people are coming to your website from their mobile phone or even from an iPad. make sure that that mobile experience works for them. You don't want text that is too small to read on phones, making sure that buttons are easy to click, that they actually do click. And if you have horizontal scroll, that's not going to work when you're on your phone. It needs to be a vertical scroll. Another sign is that you don't have content that reflects your current business. This is my favorite type of client to work with. You created your website a while ago, but the content doesn't match where you are in your business today. A website is an ever-growing beast, and you need to constantly be updating it and changing it as your business grows and updates. And if you haven't been doing that, there will come a point when your content on your website doesn't reflect your current business and the current services or your brand voice. Most likely your brand voice has matured, but your website copy hasn't. It's stayed the same. It stayed stagnant, as well as your prices. Thinking about the content on your website, does it still reflect your business? And finally, not converting visitors to leads. I share a lot about attracting ideal clients and making money. How do you do that? You're converting the visitors on your website into leads, people taking the action that they want them to take, whether it's to fill out your contact form, book an appointment, buy your course, whatever you're trying to get them to do. Understanding if your website is actually working for you. Now, if any of that resonates with you, that means that your website might need an overhaul. The first thing I want you to do and think about before diving into that website redesign project, look at your website and think about what's working and what isn't. Because I guarantee you there is something that is working on your website. You can even take a quick look at your analytics. See which pages on your website have the longest view times. What's on those pages? Is there anything special? Are there testimonials that are really great social proof that you can pull from that website? Are there some elements that reflect your brand personality on your old website that you want to implement into your new one? Is there any content that people constantly give you positive feedback on? For example, if you share something on your services page and people are talking about that on your consultation call, that means it resonated with them. Think about what is working on your website and just jot that down so you know. And then I want you to research some competitors, or not even competitors, but just some websites in the space to see what kind of designs that you really like. And on your competitors, who's doing it right and what are they doing on their website? Think about those gaps between what they have and what you have and what you could fill. And if you love anything as you're looking through this competitor's websites, take some screenshots. Because me as a website designer, I love when my clients come to me with some inspiration. It helps me guide the project and make sure that I'm aligning with what they really love. And the last thing I think about is defining your goals for the site. What do you want this new site to do? When I have a consultation call with someone or when we have our strategy call, I talk about what is the overall goal of the website. And if you don't know, that's okay. I will walk you through this. But we need a goal to understand what do we want the site to do so that we can then measure how it's working. And this goal can be growing your email list, positioning yourself for higher paying clients, maybe showcasing your personality and unique approach, which in turn attracts your ideal clients because they are resonating with your personality on that website. And perhaps it's booking more consultation calls. Whatever that goal is, I want you to have that in mind. Now, when it comes to planning your website redesign timeline, talked a little bit of overwhelm at the beginning and the intro in this episode. We went over how do you know when your website is ready to be updated. Then I talked about what you should look at in your current website before you get into this project. And now it's time to start planning your project. Thinking about the timeline. When do you start? Because quick question, are you frustrated with your website? Not sure why it isn't converting? I would love to help. That's why I offer my website coaching calls. In just 50 minutes, we'll uncover what's holding your site back and create a plan to fix it. Whether you need help with design, content, or strategy, I'll give you the clear steps to move forward. Click the link in the show notes to book your coaching call today, and let's make your website your best marketing tool. Now back to the episode. Mentioned a lot of us are overwhelmed. We are so busy on what we're doing, and we worry we can't take on another thing. And when I work with a client, I make sure that I'm holding their hands throughout the whole process and we are walking through everything together. The entire process for a project with me typically takes 2 months. I would say plan 2 to 3 months before you actually want to launch. And what you might want to plan is that you do this during your business's slower season. This means that you will have a little bit of more time to dedicate to the project. You'll have that bandwidth to really focus. And you'll have enough lead time before you get into your busy season, the time that you're really pushing your services. I know for me, one of my busy times is the fall. After the summer, people are coming back energized for their business. For me, I would most likely start a website design project at the end of spring, early summer, so that by the time the fall comes, I have this new site in place. I know that it's working and it's ready to take on all the visitors that I'm going to get. For my projects, they typically take about 8 weeks. The most time-intensive part is the content gathering part. That's at the beginning of the project. We kick off with a strategy call, and then I give you time to gather the content that I need to build the site. And this looks like either writing your own website copy or working with my copywriter to write your copy, and then collecting the images that we're going to want to be on the site and anything else that you want to integrate. If you have a calendar, getting me an embed code, or if you have a special PDF that you want to share, collecting all of those assets that I'm going to need to build the website. Depending on how much you have to collect for me, I would say it typically takes my clients 2 to 3 weeks. And this is the most time-intensive part for them. When planning for your website design project, think about the content collection process. This is what's going to take you a little bit of time. I walk my clients through all of this. I create a to-do list. I'm very organized and structured. I love lists and deadlines. And I have a little checkbox list for everything that you need to collect for me. And if you sit down and focus, I would say it probably would take you 2 to 3 hours to get everything collected for me and write the copy and get it all done. But like I said, when you're thinking about your website design project, it's that content collection time that's going to take the most for you in your time. Once I have all the content, I begin the website. And this is where the fun part starts. I build the homepage on Monday and I share it with you by Tuesday or Wednesday. And you get to see the homepage presentation. And what I look for is feedback on the design and the layout and look. On your end, this takes, 30 minutes of your time looking at what I've come up with, sharing any feedback. Maybe you don't like the colors. Maybe you want a larger font, things like that, like design feedback. Just 30 minutes looking at that, going back and forth and sharing with me your comments. And then once I have that homepage solidified, I build out the remainder of your site for the next 2 weeks. So at the end of the third week, you have your site fully built. Then comes another time for you to spend some time on this project. And what this will look like is I'm presenting you the final built website, and you're going through it page by page and sharing any small copy tweaks, imagery swaps, any notes, things like that. For my clients, it really depends. Most of them don't spend much time at all. I would say about 30 minutes going through page by page and making any final tweaks. It really, truly depends. Others, they don't find anything that they want to change, and it's all set to go. In the timeline, right, when we started the project, that was the most time-intensive part. Those 2 to 3 weeks collecting that content up front. Beyond that, there are just 2 time periods where you're going to have to spend a little bit of time reviewing what I've done. And then the final week, the 4th week of the build, we get on a call. So it's a 30-minute call. I walk you through your website. I share with you some tutorials on what you need to do if you want to make any updates on your end, and then we launch it. That is my process. I like to streamline everything to make it as easy as possible for you. And the most time-intensive part is up at the front, those 2 to 3 weeks. When you think about your website design, whether it is working with me or someone else, that content collection timeline is going to be what's going to take you the most time. I will say, depending on who you work with, the editing portion, that homepage review or the website review, That might be a little bit lengthier depending on who you work with. If you're working with someone who's really knowledgeable about your industry, about website design, best practices, and you know that their work is really, really good, you're probably going to have less work to do on your end for the edits. If you're working with someone else who isn't as knowledgeable, who doesn't understand the marketing and the strategy behind the website, then perhaps you might spend some more time doing that editing process. It truly depends on who you work with. Typically, I suggest that my clients spend a little bit of time up front planning to have a little bit of spaciousness. And then beyond that, truly, it doesn't take much on their timeline and their effort to actually launch the site. That is, when you think about your website design timeline, that is what it typically looks like. When you think about the budget and investment, there's a range. You need to think about your website as a long-term business asset. It's not just an expense. And quality design and development and strategy prevents problems down the road. In that strategy, that strategic implementation, it impacts your conversion rates. It makes a difference if your website's going to work for you or not. When you have a website that works for you 24/7, it truly is the best investment that you can make for your business. Now, how do you choose if you should do it yourself or work with a professional? If you can work with a professional, that's what I always suggest. I think that you get the highest quality of product with a website that is built to convert. Sometimes, though, you can't. And DIY makes sense if you have budget constraints or if you have a simple need for a website or you're really comfortable in technology. But when you work with a professional, you can get a much better result with better strategic guidance and a quicker timeline. It truly is worth it to work with a professional. You can go back to episode 7, How to Choose a Website Designer You Love, and it will share with you what to look for, those red flags to look out for when you are deciding to work with a website designer. But when you do work with someone, you need to make sure that you make the right choice. Now, setting yourself up for success. You have decided that your website is outdated. You know that you need to get it done. You understand the workload that you're going to be coming up against in the timeline that I shared. What can you do to get ahead of that? You can think about the content that you're going to need on that website. Perhaps think about scheduling a photo shoot if you need new images on your website because your website designer is going to ask for images. Think about scheduling a photo shoot, especially if you're planning to do a website redesign in the next 6 months. Invest in those photos now so that you'll have it when you're ready to go. Start gathering testimonials. If you haven't done that in a long time, it's a great way to get started thinking about a new website design. Reach out to a few former clients and ask for some testimonials. And also think about, what is the goal for your website? What is the journey that you want them to go on? What do you want them to do on your website, that conversion path? And that's pretty much it. I think the biggest thing that you can do is if you are thinking about a new website design, keep the content in mind. Start picking away. Maybe create a folder on your computer. Start putting some images. Think about some content. If you're scrolling the internet and you really like a website, just jot it down for those inspo sites. That's what you can do to start setting yourself up for success so that when you decide to pull that trigger and to go forward with that website design project, it will all fall together. Now, to wrap this up, just remember that your website is never done. It's an evolving business tool, and it does need to be updated over time and eventually needs to be redesigned because your business is evolving. You want your website to match your current business. Look at your current website, what's working, what isn't, and just jot it down. And as you're thinking about the inevitable website redesign, put a folder on your computer, start dropping some images, some inspo sites, thinking about your content so that when you reach out to a website designer to work with them, you'll have already had a head start on getting things ready to go. And when you have that content collection, you'll know exactly what you need to do and you'll make it so much easier on yourself. And you will find that having a website that is redesigned for you won't be so overwhelming as you thought. And in fact, it could be something that is a joyful and enjoyable process. That's what I strive for with all my clients, to make it as enjoyable, as fun, as simple as possible, so that you get a beautiful outcome that can truly attract your ideal clients and make you money. As you've been listening, if you feel like maybe it is time, you are ready to pull that trigger and work with a website designer, I would love to help you. You can click the link in the show notes to book a consultation call. Pressure free. We can have a chat, see what you got going on now and how I might be able to help you. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you next time. And that wraps up another episode of Website Design Made Simple. I hope you found the insights shared in this episode valuable and takes you one step closer to creating a website that attracts more of your ideal clients and builds your brand. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. Your review will help us reach more small business owners like you who are ready to make more money with their website. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.